Hi, this is Cheryl Graham, and this is part 2 of the Pathfinder tutorial for Vector Toots. Part 1 we dealt with the Pathfinder panel, which you can see here, and today I'm going to show you the Pathfinder Effects, which are found under the Effect menu. If you go to Pathfinder, you'll see some familiar words here, just like you would on the panel, but there are some new ones as well, and I'll show you the difference between the two. Here are the shapes that I used in the Part 1 tutorial, and let's say I wanted to divide those shapes. Normally I'd go and select them all, then go to the Pathfinder panel and click Divide, and that would divide them into individual shapes like so. I'll undo that and go back up to the Effect menu and choose Pathfinder, Divide, and what's going to happen, I'm going to get an error message. That message tells me that Pathfinder Effects should usually be applied to groups, layers, or type objects. So this isn't really going to have any effect if I choose OK, so I'll cancel that. So what I want to do is group these objects, go to Object Group, then go to the Effect menu, Pathfinder, Divide. And it may look like nothing has really happened, but because this is a live effect, I can move these around until I decide that I want to commit to the divide. And because it's also a live effect, you can see it show up in the appearance panel here. And what's handy about that is that I could click divide, then it'll bring up some more Pathfinder options, and I can preview some other effects. So add, for example, is going to merge all of those. Trim will do some other things, minus back, and so forth. So you can preview those options before committing to them. I'll go back to divide. And if I like what I've got here, I can always go up to the Object Expand Appearance menu, and then there are my separate shapes. So that's an advantage of having the live effect, is that you really don't have to commit to it until you're ready. There are some other more powerful things that you can do with the Pathfinder Effects, and here I've got these two guitars. I'm a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and I want to say put an outline around both of them. So first, to apply Pathfinder Effects, I need to group them. So I'll select them both, Object Group, Command or Control G, of course, is the keyboard shortcut. And now I'll take my Appearance panel and add a stroke to them. I'm going to move this over so you can see it. I'll add New Stroke, and that'll give me a 1-point black stroke around both objects. And that's not quite what I want. So first I'm going to increase the point size, and I want to offset these so that I have some white space between them. So I'll go to the Effects menu on the Appearance panel, go to Path, Offset Path, and I'll give it a 10 points. Let's see, yeah, that's about right. Okay, but that's still not what I have in mind, because I don't want these black lines in between my two objects. So this is where the Pathfinder Effects really come into play. I'll go up to the Effect menu, Pathfinder, Add, and that's what I'm looking for right there. So I have these two shapes with the offset path going around both of them. And again, this is a live effect, so if I go to my Appearance panel, I can click Add, and I can change it if I want to. For example, Trim is going to give me a slightly different look, where the red guitar is overlapping the blue with the outline. And you can mess around with different effects. Probably not the one you want, but that's, again, the advantage of the live Pathfinder effect. Now this works really well on text, this particular technique. So I've got some text here that's editable. It's live type, and I can apply that same series of effects to it. So I'll go to the Appearance panel. Once again, I'll add a stroke to it. That gives me a 1-point black stroke just like before. I think I want to make that red and make it bigger, like so. And again, I'm going to offset that path. So I'll go to the Effects menu in the Appearance panel. You can't see that right now. Path, Offset Path. And once again, 10 points looks pretty good. Okay, but again, that's not really the look I'm going for. I want this red line to go all around the type. So with this stroke highlighted in the Appearance panel, I'll go back up to Effect, Pathfinder, Add. And that gives me the look I'm going for. And the beauty of this, again, is that it's a live effect. So I could change, I could just edit the type if I needed to, or change the typeface for that matter, and still retain that effect. I could even do something like this where I've got yet another effect, a warp effect, as you can see in the appearance panel, and the offset path, and then the add Pathfinder effect. And again, that text remains editable. So very handy, because if you make a misspelling, or if you want to change your typeface, you don't have to go back and do a lot of different steps. And again, you can go to the appearance panel and preview other things if you want. So I could go and click on add and try some different effects, like so. Okay, so let's move on to a couple of the effects that aren't in the panel but only exist as live effects under the effect menu. And the first one is hard mix. Again, I have a couple of guitars here, and I want to go up to Effect, Pathfinder Hard Mix, but if I don't group these or target the layer, I'm going to get that error message again. So let me go to the Layers panel, and I target the layer just by clicking on this little round circle here. And that means that everything on that layer is ready to receive some kind of effect. So that's targeted. I go up to Effect, Pathfinder Hard Mix, and that gives me a sort of look like you would with a transparency effect, like a multiply, for example. And again, this is a live effect, so if I wanted to move this guitar around, I'll still have the interaction between the two shapes, but it's a live effect. The second one is soft mix, which is very similar, although a little softer, hence the name. Once again, I want to target the Layers panel. I'll click that circle there. That's targeted, ready to go. Go to Effect, Pathfinder, Soft Mix, and you'll see there is an ellipsis here, which lets you know that you're going to have some options when you bring that up. So I'll click off the preview and on it again. There it goes. Soft Mix lets you adjust the mixture. So I could go up to 90%, for example, get a little darker intersection, or I could go all the way down to, let's say, 12, and it's slightly softer. So that gives you some more control around there with the soft mix. And again, I could go and mess around with some other settings if I wanted to, but we're doing soft mix here. The final option on the Pathfinder Effects is one that's called Trap, and if you have spent any time in printing, you'll know that trapping has to do with registering two different colors. So let's say I was wanting to print this yellow star over top this blue guitar. What will happen if your registration is off slightly? This is a sort of an exaggeration, but let's say those plates were misaligned. You're going to get some white gaps on the one side and then some overlapping ink on the other. So Trap, under the Pathfinder effect, lets you deal with that. Let's go back to this one. So if I select these both, and again I can group them or target the layer, which I will do. Now I'll go up to Effect, Pathfinder Trap, and again there are those ellipses, which tells me that I've got something else coming up. Now I can set my options. The default is a 0.25 I should say point, and you can also adjust the height and the width if you wanted to. I don't know, if your press tended to get out of register one way or the other, you could adjust those independently. I'll just go with the defaults right now. I'll click OK, and I have to zoom in so you can see it a little better. But there's my trap. You can see there's slight overlap of the yellow, and that again just prevents the if you do have a little bit of out of register ink printing, that prevents those white gaps. Now again, that's a live effect, so I could go up to the appearance panel, click that trap again, and let's say I want to make that thicker, half a point, click OK, and there I give a little more of an overlap. And I can also change the tint reduction, which will, let's say, I'll put it on 30, click OK, and that, you can barely see it, but that gives you a little less of a obvious overlap there. So that's very handy. Again, it's a live effect. You don't have to manually trap everything by adding strokes and overprinting, etc., etc. That just does it there in the Pathfinder panel. So very handy live effects under the Pathfinder effect, and you should now know what the difference between the Pathfinder effects are and the Pathfinder panel and when to use them.